All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Paul Tranny. I'm going to dive into Illustrator. Questions, thoughts? I'm here to help everyone. Good to have you here. Feel free to say hello so I know who I'm talking to. That would be fantastic. And it would be good to see you. All right. Cool. Great. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm finally in. Do this dance. And we'll dive into this. There we go. Cool. Hello from Earthquakey Iceland. I see you there. Brynhilder, Carlos. Cool. What the heck? So yeah, feel free to let me know how you guys are doing. Sorry this is taking a little bit of time. Hello Muriel, I see you there. I am not able to see all of chat, but I want to kind of cover some fun things that I have going on here as well as other items. So let's take a look one more time. Oh, this is very weird. There we go. Very weird things happen. There we go. Sorry, 3 minutes in, and this is what happens when you try to live stream. There we go. Cool. This looks cool. And Angel, Hamilton, Dana, Michelle, awesome. All right, so let's do this. Let's jump in here. I used to show this a lot, by the way. It's like, hey, you know what? We want to go ahead and do a copy, paste, right? And then we kind of move this around, right? This is what I would typically do as I'm working on this lovely peacock. What you could do is you could actually go in and use these Radial Repeat, Radial Grid, and Mirror. They're also on the iPad as well. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Hello, Angel. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. Let's do Radial, right? Because that's what we want to do. There's our Radial Repeat. See, there it is. And again, this is just a pro tip. Let's zoom out. You can kind of see what's happening. It's actually not quite giving me the results that I want, right? And I can try to kind of move it into place. It's still pretty cool. But really what I need to do is I need to double click on that item and then point it inward like so. Just like that, because you can edit that Radial Repeat, go down like that, increase the number, right? Let's have lots of lovely feathers. And you know what? Let's add a little bit more. We could have a little bit of overlap, that's okay, but right down here we can go ahead and make it only half circle. Hello, Imanush from Argentina. Imanush, what are your thoughts on Illustrator? Do you have any questions or concerns? Have you found it easy, hard to use? What's your experience, my friend? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I like this as well. So super fun, easy to do. We could always jump in and change this all we want. The colors and all that good stuff. So you shouldn't be copying and pasting if you can help it. It's been just some weeks that I've been using Wacom tablet, and I still don't know exactly how is the best way to enjoy it with Illustrator. Any suggestions? Juan, I have some great suggestions. Excuse me. If you just got a Wacom for your Illustrator, because I've been actually like using it all the time, and it is awesome. Right? Typically, what you want to do actually is you want to use the pencil. I end up using the pencil a lot. And for the pencil, you want to double click on the pencil tool and you want to play with these fidelity options. So you could go into the middle. It just depends on how accurate or smooth you want to be. So accurate usually means a little messy, okay? And sure enough, I have a Wacom. That's why I'm so excited about this. Right, so click OK. Let's just draw out a line, and here we go. So as if I plan on like drawing a face, right, here's my lovely face, right, that I'm spending so much time on. You can see the number of points that we're getting here, right? You can see them. It's kind kind of a lot, especially when I did this math. Look at all those. So you could try to clean that up, but really what you want to do is you want to change the smoothing. That's all I'm saying, right? N for pencil, and then we'll come in and we'll just draw out, oops, sorry. Double click, change this down to smooth, click OK, and we're going to be able to get those smooth lines, like so, of the eyebrows if we want to, right? The nose, just like that. We're going to get these nice clean lines that we want, right? Like so. But I absolutely love it, by the way. It's just super fun. I have the Wacom Cintiq Pro 24-inch, not the touchscreen, okay? Right, so again, it's just going to lead you to have really smooth lines. Look at that, it's just gorgeous. By the way, another thing you can do is use brushes. Click over here, right? A lot of times we want to maybe taper these brushes or have a brush work based on the, right in here, let's see, the size. Let's just try this. I haven't even done this yet, but let's do it based on the pressure. So now we have access to pressure. That's awesome, right? And we'll adjust the size a lot depending on the pressure, right? And we can preview it, but let's see what happens when I start to play with the pressure here. You know what? I think I need a taper brush. Let's go in here. Let's add. So rather than us even want to have to make any, let's go in here to artistic. I'm just going to try some of these, like your calligraphic, which might have to deal with the angle as well. So let's just pick this calligraphic. Here we have this nice flowy line that actually changes based on the rotation of my mouse. So that's, or of my stylus, just so you know. And you could change those settings. Just jump in, double click, and you're able to access those settings. Right, again, it added them up here. When you double click on them, it'll add them up here, and then you can click on them, right? So when you double click on them, they add to the brushes panel, and then you can change them. So this one happened to be a fixed. We would do this based on the tilt if we want to, right? You get the idea. Okay, cool. Get the idea. All right, fantastic. Let's move on, because I actually just want to use a simple line, and we'll just do something quite simple right in here. Actually, let's do this really fast. This is going to be really fun. I'll show you some of my pro tips. Let me know if you guys have questions, because again, like this slide says, what are your thoughts on Illustrator? Do you find it frustrating? It's okay. But if I was making a logo and wanted to align this circle with this T, we now have glyph snapping, by the way. So that's why I guess I don't use grids. So watch these green lines come up as I roll over. If I want this to snap to the top of these letters, it'll go ahead and snap. So those are the green lines that you start to see. If this would be a lowercase PR, right, it will snap accordingly. So again, the fact that you have that snapping works out great. Another thing that you want to take a look at is right up here. Hold on. I want to go right up here. Oh, here it is. My resolution is so high, I'm in the wrong spot. So right up here, we have snapping as well. So let's just take a look. Come on. There we go. I have this open now. You could snap to pixels while drawing if you want to get really exact, and snap to pixel while moving. So that is now turned on. You can turn on this little magnet tool, and now as you draw these little details, it's going to snap, right, when you draw to whole pixels, right? And actually, if we open up our properties panel, should we see that? It should be snapping into place. Let's go back in here. Bam, 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 bam. Let's just kind of draw. I feel it snapping, by the way. It'll see it snapping. Oh, that's inches. That's why I was looking for whole pixels. It's not even in pixels, silly me, but it's snapping into place. So just do that and it'll help out your alignment. That's all. Okay. Change the color of a pre-made brush. This is how you change the color of a pre-made brush. I'm loving these questions, by the way. This is awesome. So I've done this before a lot. So we have this brush right here. Look at this. This happens to be a pattern brush. this pattern brush has this purple color in it. As I scroll down, we can get into colorization. So we could do a whole hue shift. Let's do just let's just kind of go through this. We'll go through tints. Okay, what's the key color right in here? We'll sample that purple like that. So now that's the color that's going to change. Click OK. We'll go over here. We're just going to make sure this is red. And sorry, make sure the stroke is red, right? And this is what a tint does. It tints the whole stroke. So we actually want to go in, and this time we're going to change this brush. We're going to change it to hue shift. And let's preview it. Hue shift will actually shift that hue to the color in your brush, right? So again, this is super cool. I've identified the color that should be changed. I change it right over here for my stroke, and now I can play with this all I want and have as many different lines as I want, even though they look like they're different colors. Isn't that cool? All right, really easy to use. Why does my Illustrator always want to crash when I want to transform in 3D? That is a good question. And I don't know. We do know 3D is going to be more intense on your system, and Illustrator is one of the lighter of all of them. So we could take a look at it. Chances are it's your graphics card isn't fast enough. That's the short answer there. Eric, what are my color settings for printing? To be honest with you, I don't do a lot of printing, but that's a great question. And I wish I did more of it, actually. So I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you. I just don't do a lot of printing, darn it. Okay, I'm having a little bit of Valentina's having a little bit of trouble trying to remember how to do your design because you do research, you draw by pencil, but when you go back to Illustrator, you have to go to my notes. What time should I spend day or week to be more fluent? Yeah, so Valentina, that's a tough one. It's like, how can you get used to using Illustrator, right? What's going to be the most efficient for you? Honestly, I think what's going to be really helpful, I think if anybody's new at Illustrator, you should consider using Illustrator on the iPad, right? So I'm switching over really fast because you might find it more intuitive, you know? And I know we're just talking about a Cintiq, but hey, I don't really need a Cintiq. I could use Apple Pencil. I don't even need a computer. I could use Apple Pencil and an iPad, and that same line that I was doing, right in here, I can just draw. So if, so you do research, you draw by pencil. So when I saw that you drew by pencil, this is when I was thinking of, you know what, just using Illustrator on the iPad instead, because that might be just kind of a little bit more effective for you, is all I'm saying. Select the pencil. Let's actually give it no fill right there. And, you know, we can draw out. I'll just do my typical, like, sort of a bird, right? Super easy to do, as you can see. Off to the side, if we take a look, we can increase the stroke thickness, like so. You get the idea. Shoop. There's the eye. There's me. Why you shouldn't use Illustrator for web design instead of Photoshop. Yeah, by the way, hey, you know what, Jiraj, the best tool for the job is gonna be the one that you know. So if you know Illustrator, yeah, use it. It is gonna give you that pixel perfect control that I encourage you to use. So yeah. If you're going to be doing web design and it's going to get pretty complex, you should actually be using XD. I encourage you to use Adobe XD. That's going to be the tool of choice. If you know all the tools, what tools would be the best for web design, it's going to be Adobe XD, okay? Chances are you're still going to make the graphics, right? You're still going to make all these graphics. I have these graphics over here, you know, you're going to make what you want, you're going to copy it, and you could use it directly in XD. pasting it in. Come on, buddy. Did I copy it? There it is. So yeah, I pasted it in. You get the idea, right? So here we are again in Adobe XD. You know, if you're expecting Illustrator to be really efficient in UX and UI work, then you know what? Maybe you should consider using XD. This is a new feature that XD just launched, Angular Gradient. Here we could have angular gradients here in XD, which I think is cool. Bop, 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 bop. You get the idea. I'm controlling that right here. You can see those points, and that's what you got there. Okay, cool. Right, cool. We got it. Yeah, we could do all of that. We're gonna have even more flexibility if we do something like that in Illustrator, if we want to. I'm gonna take these two objects. Geez, will this work? Oh, actually, we'll get rid of. This is just gonna be a circle, in fact. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's take these two. Let's blend them together because I want to do my favorite things. Bah, shaba. Of course. Specified steps. What do you think? 20? Specified steps of 20, right? We can jump in. We can change this color. We get it. This is what I wanted to do, though. I wanted to randomize this. So first off, this is a fun little tip. Let me know if you guys have more questions. Oh, more came in. Is iPad just as good as a Wacom? You know, if you want the screen real estate, then get a Wacom, right? If you want that big screen real estate. I spend 8 hours a day here, so that's why I have a Wacom. If I'm going by a pure cost standpoint, I could consider getting an iPad, right? So I'd have my iPad, which, again, I don't need to buy a computer and then a Wacom, two things. I could just get the one iPad with Apple Pencil, and it might be more cost effective for you. And lots of people are doing professional work on iPads, just so you know. So that's a great question, you know. But it's totally up to you. There are no rules. There's no right or wrong ways. Okay, thank you, Steve. Tools and functions in AI compared to Photoshop are different. And I agree. That is a pain point, by the way. If you're going from Photoshop to Illustrator, it can be frustrating, you know, using the tool because and I don't even know why that is. Illustrator came first. And I think Photoshop, I could be wrong. I'll have to go through my history. And I feel bad I don't know this because I work for Adobe. I think Adobe bought Photoshop from someone else. And that's why it had different shortcuts. But it goes back like 30 years. All right. Okay, so, Leah, you just had oh, by the way, let me just do this really fast. I can manipulate this. I can redraw this line if I double click and jump in there. We'll switch to our pencil, right? And I can kind of draw over this line all I want. So now I'm just creating a fun worm thing, as you can see here. Or not fun, maybe it's disturbing, but just grab that line, get rid of that one. I got rid of the whole thing. Anyways, let's go back. There it is. Here's the end. I didn't draw it out perfect, but I'm going to change this all anyway. Because there's two of them. I actually drew two separate lines, and that's what happened. All right. You guys get the idea. Okay, you could redraw that line. I'm going to expand this, by the way. You can always go in, blend, expand. There's all my circles. I use this all the time because I think this is really fun and I want to stick to the whole idea of pro tips. Random swatches fill. I do this all the time because I think it's fun. It's like, hey, I want to use just a couple of colors and randomly fill this in with just a couple of these bold colors that I'm going to select. I'm going to select yellow and the teal. Hold on. And click. Bam, bam. Let's get a blue and orange. Of course, pink. We want a purple in there and then a green. Selected all those colors. Now we can go in and just randomly fill those in. But we do have to ungroup it first. We'll ungroup it and then we'll do our random swatches fill. Wait for it. There we go. So that was fun and easy to do. Okay. General design rules you stick to. Yes, Leo, when you're manipulating text in Illustrator, it's general design rules you stick to, or you just go crazy. Okay, so people seem to create such cool text effects, but yours seem off somehow. By the way, like any video that you see done, it's already rehearsed, except for mine. I don't know if mine are that rehearsed. But you know, chances are they have already kind of like rehearsed it and it's like down perfect. So don't get discouraged by what online videos do or even live streams, because chances are it's been practiced in advance. But it just takes time, because things will get ugly before they start to look good. That's all I have to say. So they're going to get ugly. Usually your journey as a designer, and you guys probably know this, you're going to start throwing everything and all these fun effects at this stuff. And then as you mature as a designer, you start adding less and less effects, right? So you'll be like, oh, this is cool. I could do 3D, because you just learned how to do 3D. Congratulations. And then you realize, geez, this is a dated look. Maybe I shouldn't do 3D, you know? Or how can I simplify this and just keep the most basic components and have it look good? So that's kind of the struggle that we deal with, I think, is you know, not throwing everything at the design, but keeping the very best parts of a design is the goal. Okay. So Leah Jackson also wanted to show this, again, sticking with pro tips right up here. Touch type tool, again, just show that a lot, because I can keep this all in the same line and still move this around, whether it's one letter in a word or just initials like I'm doing here. Okay. I love AI, but I could use some tips on the pen tool. When you're typically using the pen tool, make sure, let me actually make sure this is turned on, by the way. Let me take a look at this. It should always project that line. So can I just take a look at my preferences? And I think it's on by default, but basically you want to make sure that you're projecting the next line. See how it actually attaches to this line? I can see where this is going to end up, and then I can click and drag. Now, what you can always do is you're going to learn shortcuts before long. Okay, so you're going to learn that the selection tool is V, and then direct selection tool is A. So you can just go ahead and hit V and A as well, or Shift C. Those are the three tools you need, right? You're going to draw with the pen tool, you're going to modify it with the anchor point tool, and then you're going to manipulate it more with those selection tools. So I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know if that's really that helpful. You know, you just kind of, I guess, get comfortable with it, right? So here I'm selecting A, by the way. So as I drew this, I selected A, so that's my direct selection tool. When you roll over a path, you're going to be able to manipulate it, and this is your curvature tool that's you can select as well. So I guess you're just kind of learning shortcuts, but that's good. Yeah, Leah, by the way, like it's not easy. I think the whole thought of designing is really fun, and then when you get into it, you're like, designing is, this is a horrible career path. Why did I ever decide to do this? You know, and that's just like the journey we take. You know, it's like, oh, we love it when the end results, when it looks really cool, but it takes a while to get there. This is cool. Yeah, Scott, when you have multiple text paths in close proximity to each other. On the same layer, I have trouble selecting the path that I want. I automatically selects other paths. So Let's take a look at that actually. I want to just get into... And here you go. Selection and anchor display. If you're really getting into it, you want to kind of maybe turn down the tolerance because maybe they're within 2 pixels of each other, but you have this set to 3. So you could take down the tolerance to 1 to where you are. If you were that good, you could actually select that one pixel, and that will help. So just go ahead and do that. Adjust the tolerance, and that will help. Another thing to do is just put it on different layers as well. Mitra from Israel, good to have you here. Welcome. Hello. Good to have you on this fine day. This fine Monday. You know what this made me think of though? This design. Shout out to this designer. By the way, it's like, oh, I thought this was really cool. This is done by Matt W. Moore. Matt does awesome sort of symmetrical overlapping colors, and it's just really cool what he's able to create. You can see what I did earlier is kind of the start to that, but I think he just does really cool work. Same thing with this. Really cool. Another thing he does is he throws a texture on top of that. Personally, I think the texture is almost too strong, but it just depends the resolution you're looking at it at kind of determines how strong it is or how strong it isn't. But what I typically do there is I'll throw a layer over the top, right? And then you can go to Effect Gallery, and throw like some film grain on top. So let's just do that. Here's our film grain. Okay, so it's just going to be a layer that's on top of everything else that I could turn on and off. Because if I happen to apply this film grain to everything, it's gonna move too slow, right? It's just gonna slow down my whole process. Instead, I typically put it on top of my sweet design, right, like so, and then we can change the blend mode over here. So opacity, we'll change this to say overlay. Wait for it, and now it applies that film grain to everything, you know? So that's all. It'll make everything go slower, but again, you could always toggle that off and continue with the rest of your life. Cool. What other pro tips do we have? Question, what's the difference between saving documents in Illustrator Legacy and Illustrator 2020? You always want to save in the latest version because it's not going to crunch down any new features. Like say for instance, if I did this peacock earlier, right? So here it is. It's pretty sweet. We got our peacock. We'll save this as something. It's going to get rid of that. It'll probably sort of outline that new feature, which is the Radial Repeat. So that's the problem with it. It's not going to be as editable if it's in Illustrator 2020. Now, there are other software packages like when I'm using stuff in Cinema 4D, I have to drop it down to like Illustrator 8 because it only understands Illustrator 8 vector lines, and that's it. So that's all. You're just going to lose compatibility. So keep it Illustrator 2020. It'll be good. All right. Some tips for graphic illustrations. That's a good question. You know, work in black and white if you're working on an illustration, right? So that's what you want to do. Make it as editable as possible. A lot of times if I'm like drawing out a person, let's do this. Let's just do, okay. Really basic. There's his head. Yeah. Wonderful, Paul. You're so good. You're such a good illustrator. But here's our character, you know. You never actually want to use a rounded rectangle to make a circle, because watch what happens when I scale it up. So what I have to do there is I have to go into scale corners, or right in here. scale corners, right? So then I just have to turn that on. So if you ever run into that issue, you need to make sure the corners are scaled. But typically if I'm making a person, right, here's my lovely person, and I want to give them some cool hair, just for example, it's going to be the person's luscious hair. I want it to have a taper that goes from thick to thin, and then probably, I'm winding down on my last couple minutes, by the way. Let's get rid of that point. Right, I got this cool hair. And I love this, by the way, because typically in the appearance panel, which is my best friend, let's turn this off. You know, a lot of times when you go to your next brush or to draw your next line, you have to go in and you have to set all those settings again. Ugh, this is too much labor for all this hair that I have to do. And right in here in the appearance panel, since I'm doing this graphic illustration and I need to do the same element multiple times, turn off. Don't deduce any new line down to its most basic appearance. Turn that off. Whatever I used last, just go ahead and draw with it, right? And that's what I'm doing there. And of course I should be using my Wacom. You get the idea. So it remembers my last settings. Even if I, whatever, change it, you get the idea. Design made in Photoshop into vector in Photoshop. Photoshop design in Illustrator. Let me show you this, and I think this will be my last tip. Then I need to get going. But this is really fun. I wanna do this more often. This is a blast. So we'll grab a photo really fast. You're gonna know how to vectorize things, but I'm gonna show you something that I just learned, and I feel ridiculous that I just learned this. We bring in our photo, right? Our tip is we need to embed it, right? So let's flatten everything just like so. And oftentimes you need to rasterize it. So let's rasterize it, and when we rasterize it, do like 72 ppi, 72 dots per inch, basically. So it's not like crazy high resolution, and our vectorizing doesn't take forever. Next thing we want to do is we can go up here to, of course, our image trace, right? We could click this, boom, right there, and it will go ahead and vectorize it. But right up here, this little button, I didn't know about this. So if you're doing any vectorization of a photo, here's your image trace panel, which I feel like an idiot that I never knew about it. But right in here, it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't want the default. I want to do 3 colors. So we quickly switch to it. It does its thing, blah, blah, blah. But explore all of this, because this is going to give you the control you need. But it's still going to posterize it, because it's still making it vector. Right, like that. Like, it's so chunky. Look at how chunky I am. Just chunky lines. I don't like being like chunky like that. We can go in here and say, hey, you know what? Let's give me less paths and less corners. So we'll wait for that to process. Again, that's why I did lower res. And then we'll do less corners too. And it will smooth out that line drawing, right? Yeah, I love image trace as well. It's really cool. Also, right down here, as that's working, and again, I can still smooth it out. There's this method of cutting out abutting, so it abuts the brown with the gray, or you can have it overlap, right? Overlapping might be helpful as well. Just look to overlap. Go in and clean it up with the smooth tool. Clean it up with the simplify path option as well. You get the idea. Expand it. Where's the smooth tool? It's right in here. Boop. But also, the smooth tool is other places. Anyway, you guys get the idea. Smooth it out. If you just want to smooth it out in certain parts. Let's smooth out that skin. Ah, smooth this out. Whoa, geez, what were you in a... Were you in an accident, Paul? People ask me when I wake up some days, hey, you feeling okay? No, I got 10 hours sleep. You look bad. You doing all right? No, I got a full night's sleep. You jerk. All right, guys. That's it for me. Ooh, thank you so much trying to redraw random images, Darren. I'm all for it. That's exactly what I did too with Matt. I was like, oh, it would just be cool to try this. Grab something out there, like let them know that you're like honoring them and what they're doing. That's why I'm, you know, pointing it out to that Matt is my inspiration. But try to do this work. Another thing you do is go File, New. Let's do this really fast. Last thing, right in here, we give you a bunch of free artwork and stuff. So you can go to Art and Illustration, and you can say, hey, you know what? How was this 90s stuff put together right here? And just pick it apart. See how it was made, right? Don't worry about messing it up. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on this wonderful Tuesday. Let me know about any other topics. And I'm going to throw up my info, by the way. So, like, if you have further questions, and I just make sure we're making products that you enjoy. You just find happiness when you use it is the goal. So thank you, Valentina. See you guys later. Thanks for watching.